Hello again. Welcome to our official first podcast.
First episode.
Girl Talk. Welcome to Girl Talk. I'm Brandy.
I'm Kathleen.
Hey. So today we're going to talk about friendships. You know, in our intro, in our pilot, we talked about how Kathleen and I met. And we met through Marco Polo. Again, if you're not familiar with it, if you didn't take the time last week, go and download it, find out about it, right? So when we talk about friendship, do you think friendship is important?
I think friendship is a really overlooked thing in our age in terms of its importance. When we're little girls and younger people, you think about the impact that friends have in your life. And then I feel like we all go through a period. Sometimes it can be a dry spell, honestly, in friendships. If we don't already have them, it's hard to get them when you're newly married or in the thick of child rearing and you barely have time to take a shower and blow your nose to cultivate and create and grow friendships.
Yes.
So yes, I think they're important.
And I love that you said that sometimes, friendships, you can find yourself in different seasons, right? Again, I am, as of today, I am 47 years old, right? And I, as a teenager, I had a bunch of friends, right? And then what happened, just the natural transition of life, we graduated high school, friends went off to college, friends went into the workforce, friends moved to different cities and different states. And then it comes to a point of you're like, where are my friends, right? And I don't care if you are in your 20s, 30s, 80s, friendship is very important. And a lot of times we find ourselves in a place of, like you said, Kathleen, when we're married, we are raising children. Sometimes, especially as women, we can lose ourselves in those identities.
Yes.
We can lose ourselves, and it's like you realize, if you're honest, you're lonely and you want friendships.
Yeah. I think sometimes we don't even realize what's lacking either. We might think that it's just something else. We might label it as depression. Not that depression isn't very real, but I think sometimes loneliness can manifest itself into different feelings. We feel isolated. We feel different. We somehow convince ourselves we're the only ones going through what we're going through. And that's a very dangerous path to take, in my opinion, because it creates even more of a feeling of isolation. And I know that there are medical studies and research being done that talks about the dangers in that. And I'm sure you've done some of that research.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I just recently finished my PhD.
Yes.
And my PhD was talking about social isolation and imposter syndrome. When you said social isolation, I just got excited, right? What we know is, go back to 2020 when we were all stuck in the house. We were in a pandemic. A lot of us, for many of us, that was the first time that we were disconnected, okay?
Truly disconnected. Physically.
Yeah, physically.
Yes.
And so social isolation increases mental illness, depression.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Anxiety. Social isolation has been linked to a decline in cognitive ability. When you think about older senior citizens, maybe individuals who, I'm going to say, they're living by themselves, a lot of times you will notice that there's a decline. However, you may take someone in the same age group and you have them in maybe an independent living environment, and those individuals are thriving. So if social isolation is unhealthy for us, mind, body, and spirit, then the opposite would be true for being connected. What we know, again, with research, and again, I've done tons of research about social connection and social support, is that when we are connected with others, it can be virtually, like Marco Polo, doing the Facebook, Zoom, or whatever. There's a sense of belongingness, right? We When we are connected, it increases our immune system. There's even research that supports when individuals are getting cancer treatments. Those individuals that have a social connection, I'm saying sister circle because we're talking girl talk, okay? They have women that are there for them. They respond to the treatment better than those that don't have friendships.
I do know that's true. My husband works in radiation oncology, and he has talked often about those patients who have, he doesn't call it a tribe because that's kind of a girl talk thing. But he says, those are when there are people who come in and they talk about the fact that they have a group of people praying for them, or they have a group of people that bring them meals and sit and meet with them, that it greatly increases the positive outcomes of their treatment plans. So that's really, really interesting information. I love, it's one of the reasons I love Marco Polo. I don't often have time in my day to FaceTime. With FaceTime, you have to be able to answer your phone.
Correct.
Right then, and be in a space where you can talk to someone. So FaceTime is great for what it is. It's way better than just talking on the phone. Correct. Because you do see someone's face, know. But one of the things I like about Marco, and I promise they're not sponsoring.
They're not.
And I promise this is not an ad for Marco, but it has absolutely changed my life.
It connected us.
Because I'm a little more, I believe I'm more introverted than you.
Okay.
That's going to come out as we go on. I'm definitely more introverted than you. Well, Marco allows me to, I can listen to something and respond in my own time, in my own private space or whenever I feel comfortable. But the other thing that does is it doesn't make me feel put on the spot.
Yes.
Because I'm definitely more introverted. Now, when I get to know someone, when I love someone, I'm not introverted at all.
Correct.
But when it comes to just putting my feet in there, I'm definitely more introverted than you.
Correct.
So,
and when we talk about the different personalities, like Kathleen said, she's an introvert. I'm an extreme extrovert, and sometimes I can be a little too much for people, and I don't meet a stranger. But the beautiful thing is, like I said, I don't meet a stranger. So for me, when I'm talking to women, like I said, whether it's a client or just a girlfriend, and they're actually talking about like, I'm lonely. I don't have any friends. I don't have any girlfriends to go and have dinner with. I'm often recommending get on some of those social media apps.
Yes.
A lot of times it's easy for us as women to say, hey, if we're single, that I want to be in a romantic partnership, right? And we can get on the dating sites where it's easy for us to do that. Well, for some, it's a little easy, right? And it's a lot more, I'm going to say, accepted, in society, the dating apps. But did you know that there's apps out there to meet friends?
Yes.
To meet friends. So I'm often encouraging people, get connected. And I know it's easier said than done because, again, big extrovert here.
And me not.
I'm going to put myself out there. But if you are someone who you realize you like, I want some connections, and proximity is important sometimes.
Very much so. Very much so. And I'm of the belief. So let me preface by saying I've been married over 35 years. And I've been with my husband for 40. He still makes my stomach flip flop when he walks into the room. Yes, I have a very good and long-standing great relationship with my husband. He doesn't tick off every one of my boxes.
Correct.
We need friendships. Yes. I don't think we're designed to have one person that fills every hole that we have in our heart, in our mind, because there's things I want to talk about that he doesn't want to talk about. And he'll listen, he's a good man, but he doesn't have input on all the things.
Correct.
He doesn't know how I feel on things. He's more extroverted, so he doesn't understand my struggles when I say things like, I'm feeling a little lonely. because he would just say, well, go take a walk and you'll meet 10 people on the walk.
Correct.
I don't think I even want to meet them.
Correct.
You know, I'm a little shy.
Correct. It's like, no.
So
Stranger danger.
I think the friendship piece is important outside of whatever is going on. You know, whether you're single or whether you've been married
Correct.
for 35 years.
Correct. And let me say this too. So I'm the same with my husband. We've been married, March just made 22 years, and I feel the exact same way. There are just some things that my husband, he's not my everything.
No.
And let's be real. As much as I love my husband, there are some times that, again, I just need some girl talk, and there are times that we need our emotional cup filled from our spouses and our partners, and there are times that we need that cup filled from our girlfriends. And a lot of times we can be going through things. Let's just be real. We're both married women. There are times that even in marriage, I don't care how healthy and good of a relationship that you're in, sometimes you just need your girlfriend to talk to. Just and again, there have been times for me, I can speak for me, that maybe I could feel a little disconnected from my husband because he's a guy. I'm a little bit more emotional.
There's also just the general ebb and flow, just like in any relationship of marriage. You're not always 100% in sync. There are absolutely weeks, times of the month, where we're not clicking the way we should be.
Correct.
So, and let me preface, I'm in my late 50s. So I no longer have my period. I do not have my period. This is real talk. So, but and we'll talk about this in a further podcast, but I believe in that whole theory of the invisible period, where just because you don't have an actual discharge doesn't mean that your body and your mind isn't still going through those cycles. Just like there's that 1, 3, 4 days, maybe up to a week of the month, and you're like, why can I not eat enough sugar and potato chips?
Chocolate.
Need some chocolate. So just because I don't have an actual period doesn't mean that there aren't certain weeks where my husband can do no right.
Exactly. Yes. And so even with that, when we think about and that goes, let me tell you, women, it's just not us. Same is true for men. We both have we have the hormones, okay? And there are some times we're just not connecting. And I have spent time with my girlfriends, and that filled my cup.
Yes.
That time with my girlfriends, going out and having lunch, having drinks, whatever, it filled my cup.
And when you went back home, things were probably better between you and Roy. Because you worked something out. You worked something out.
Yes.
So, I love that.
So again, that's why I do believe that proximity is so important. Proximity, again, not saying that you can't have quality in a virtual, because I definitely think you can. When Kathleen and I met for the first time face to face, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I know you. And she was like, we do, because we've been connected virtually for months, almost coming up on a year.
Almost coming up on a year. I think it was August.
Yeah. But we literally, when we met face to face, it's like there was already a connection, So I don't want to downplay, because you may be in a place, I know sometimes it could be, work may have caused you to move, just life. Sometimes just life takes you to different places. I don't want you to think, oh, I can't have a real friendship if I don't have proximity. Absolutely not. You can. But I do want you all to know, too, that proximity is important. What do you think about that?
I really agree with that. I have it's kind of a funny but very personal connection with that. My husband and I lived in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia region, for about 20 years. We more or less raised our children up there. My husband took a job with a hospital, and then we moved back home to Maryland, where our families were from, where we had both grown up. And we just thought it was going to be magical when we got there. Well, because our family lives there. It wasn't magical, because we had been away for 20 years. And so those family members, though they were delighted that we were back home, they didn't all of a sudden have all day, every day to be our best friends and to hang out with us. So some of those connections that we thought we would feel closer to, we didn't. And me being introverted and not working outside the home. My son was still in high school and I was a stay-at-home mom. I really struggled. I really struggled to find friendships. And I found friendship in the most unlikely place. I started going to Sonic in my town to get me a big Diet Coke every day because I thought I've just got to go into town and do something. So I started going to Sonic and getting these Diet Cokes, and I would go at a time where it was kind of dead. And so the people in the Sonic drive-through started recognizing me, and they would know my order, and they would know I wanted light ice or this or that. And I actually formed a friendship with the staff at Sonic.
I love it.
And it was the most, they started inviting me to their kids' birthday parties and their Tupperware parties. And, I would tell them, we go to this church. You should try this church. Just all these weird, well, I say weird. It wasn't. It was very sort of an organic way to meet someone.
Correct.
So if you're not extroverted, just say hi to your grocery store clerk. Go to his or her line every day. Or whenever you go, I see Jill over there. I'm going to go to her line. There are ways if you don't, because my child was grown pretty much, so I wasn't in the MOPS groups or the little, the ways that you sort of more naturally meet mothers when you're, like I said before, in the thick of raising your children. I was at a place and point in my life that I just was really looking for connection and I didn't know where to find it because I wasn't taking my kids to the playground. I've never been an exerciser, so I wasn't at a gym meeting people that way. It took us a while to find a local church that we liked, so I didn't have connections there. And my husband was working many hours to establish himself in this new hospital. And I just really struggled. So all that to say, you can find those physical proximity type connections, but it might take a little more work.
Being intentional. So this is something that I tell clients and I tell friends again, you may have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? I'm going to be honest, you're not going to die, What I've learned is that some of my closest friends are introverts, right? And I'm usually the one that's talking. But what I've learned is sometimes just a simple, a smile, a compliment. I can't tell you how many times I've connected with someone simply because I'm like, oh my goodness, I love your hair. And it sparks some type of a conversation. So what I want to say to you all, social media is such, it can be a great thing. Do your due diligence, do your research, and find a local Facebook group that you can connect with. I am a part of the local moms group in my area, and they have events, these little pop-up events where they get together. So I want to say, if you are in a place in your life where you're like, man, I am lonely. I have a good partner. My children are, they're grown, whatever. But I need something for me. I need that. Get out there and again, I know it may be uncomfortable if you don't have that personality like the big E here. It may be uncomfortable, but again, a lot of great things come when when we push ourselves out of our comfort zone.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
A lot of good things. So, yeah.
And I do think, like you said, sometimes we do have to go out of our comfort zone. But I also think that we should be exhaustive in our efforts. Find the smallest of way to connect. If it's really the drive-through at Sonic, but it happened, and I'm still friends with some of those people. Yeah. We're Facebook friends. Sometimes we'll get together and just have hey, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts and grab a coffee. So just let me catch up. Yeah. So all those friendships can be connective and restorative, and I do believe that the better we are, the better we're going to be for the people in our lives.
Yes.
And if we're feeling isolated and lonely and sad and depressed and all the other things you mentioned with those studies, And I think it would be a good idea for some of our listeners if in the comments section, could you link some of those studies?
Okay.
Because sometimes we need to read it for ourselves to really believe it and to glean some information from those studies.
Right. So before we leave, I want to say this. If you want a friend, be a friend. Smile. Ask someone, hey, so where's some are you from this area? What's the best place to go and get pizza? Smile, be friendly, be kind. All right.
Yeah. I think that wraps us up for today.
It wraps it up. But before we leave, we want to say thank you for spending your time with us today as we talk about the importance of friendship. At some point, if anything resonated with you, we would say share this. Sharing is caring. Share this information. Like, subscribe, and again, share this. Even if maybe you're like, oh, I have a solid circle of friends, but I've been talking to my friend about finding some friends close to her. Share this video. All right.
We appreciate you. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to invest in yourself by having some real talk with Brandy and I. So have a great week.
Bye.